The gentle hum of a dozen security cameras provided a constant backdrop to the pristine silence of the Silicon Valley mansion. In her private study, Vivian Chen's fingers hovered over her tablet screen, her weathered eyes fixed on her son's latest Instagram post. There he was, Richard Chen, brilliant tech mogul and her only child, beaming next to Isabella Martinez, the woman who'd captured his heart, and possibly Vivian feared, his billions. Another sponsored post, Vivian murmured, her Taiwanese accent still strong despite 50 years in America. The image showed Richard and Isabella at the opening of an exclusive Beverly Hills restaurant. Isabella's caption read, "Date night with my love at 73. Vivian had developed a sixth sense for authenticity. She hadn't survived poverty in Taiwan, built a restaurant empire from a food cart, and raised a son alone after her husband's death by being naive." Each of Isabella's perfectly curated posts set off warning bells in her mind. Richard appeared in her study doorway, his casual t-shirt and jeans a stark contrast to the room's ornate decor. At 35, he still had the same innocent enthusiasm he'd shown as a boy tinkering with computers in their apartment above the restaurant. "Mom, you're doing it again," he said, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "I can hear you thinking from down the hall." "I'm just looking at pictures." Son Vivian set down the tablet, but not before noting Isabella's latest TikTok had already garnered 2 million views. "You're analyzing Isabella's social media presence." "You mean Richard crossed the room and perched on his mother's antique desk, a habit she'd given up correcting 20 years ago. "She's not after my money, Mum. She has her own successful career." As an influencer, Vivian said, the modern word feeling foreign on her tongue, selling other people's dreams. "She's built a brand from nothing." "You should appreciate that, given your own story." Richard's voice carried a hint of reproach. "Isabella understands what it means to work hard. She came from a middle-class family in Arizona and built herself up, just like you did." Vivian studied her son's earnest face. At 28, Isabella was 7 years his junior and light years ahead in understanding social media's power to create illusions. While Richard had been coding his way to billions, Isabella had mastered the art of turning influence into currency. "A woman who truly loves you," Vivian said carefully, "would not need to tag luxury brands in every photo with you." "Mom, a woman who values you," she continued, her voice gentle but firm, "would post pictures of your smile, not your sports cars." Richard's shoulders tensed. "You don't know her like I do. You've barely spent any time with her." Vivian's lips curved into a slight smile as an idea took shape in her mind. Perhaps, she said, that needs to change. "You want to do what?" Richard's voice echoed through his home office, causing his cryptocurrency prices widget to rattle on the wall. "Mom, this isn't one of your Korean dramas." Vivian sat calmly in the ergonomic chair across from her son's desk, her hands folded neatly in her lap. "I've already arranged everything. Teresa's taking a paid vacation with her family. The agency will send my credentials as Maria Torres tomorrow morning." "This is insane," Richard paced, his premium sneakers squeaking against the polished floor. "You can't just pretend to be a maid. What about your arthritis? Your board meetings?" "I built my company from nothing. I can manage a few weeks of housework." Vivian's eyes twinkled. "Besides, your father always said I made the best dumplings in California. At least I'll be qualified for the cooking." Richard stopped pacing, his expression softening at the mention of his father. "Mom, Isabella is moving in next week. This is supposed to be about us building our future together, not you playing detective." "If she's the one," Vivian said gently, "then my presence won't change anything. But if she's not," she let the words hang in the air. After 3 days of arguments and negotiations, Richard finally agreed, with conditions. 2 weeks, he said firmly. "And you don't do any heavy lifting. And if Isabella treats you well, which she will, you'll give us your blessing." "Deal." Vivian smiled, already mentally preparing her transformation. The following Monday, Isabella Martinez's white Tesla purred through the mansion's gates, followed by a moving truck, carrying what she called her essential items. Vivian, now transformed into Maria Torres, watched from the kitchen window. Her silver hair was dyed black, colored contacts turned her eyes brown, and carefully applied makeup added years to her face. A plain uniform and orthopedic shoes completed the disguise. Maria Isabella's voice rang through the mansion an hour later. "Where are you? I need help with my skincare refrigerator." Vivian shuffled toward the guest wing, Maintaining the slight limp she'd practiced, she found Isabella surrounded by boxes in a room that was rapidly transforming into what looked like a professional influencer's studio. "You called." Miss Martinez. Vivian affected a slight accent, different from her natural one. Isabella barely glanced up from her phone. "The mini fridge needs to go in that corner. All my la mer needs to be temperature controlled." She waved vaguely toward a stack of boxes. "And be careful with everything. That's about $30,000 of products." Of course, Miss Martinez. Vivian began carefully unpacking boxes, noting how Isabella filmed the process for her Instagram stories, narrating about setting up my new beauty sanctuary without once acknowledging the person doing the actual work. The first week revealed a pattern. When Richard was home, Isabella was sweetness personified. She'd help clear dishes, laugh at Vivian's accented English, and even offer to teach her about skin care. But the moment Richard left for work, the mask slipped. "Maria, you used regular water to wash my face towels." Isabella's voice dripped with disdain one morning. "I specifically said they need to be washed with avian water. Do you know how sensitive my skin is? This is why you're the help and I'm going to be the lady of this house." Vivian apologized profusely while making mental notes. That evening, as she prepared Richard's favorite beef noodle soup, Isabella swept into the kitchen with her phone held high. "Babe, look. Maria's making your comfort food." Isabella's voice took on the sugary tone she used for videos. "I asked her to make it specially for you because I know you've had a long week." Richard, who had just arrived home, beamed at his fiancée. "You did? That's so thoughtful, Bella." Vivian stirred the soup, her back to the couple, listening as Isabella launched into a story about how she'd learned Richard's favorite foods from long conversations with the staff, conversations that had never happened. The deceptions grew bolder. Isabella began borrowing expensive items from Richard's mother's old room, items Vivian had left there deliberately for her social media posts. She filmed unauthorized house tours for her premium subscribers. But most telling were the phone conversations Vivian overheard late at night. "Of course I'll sign the prenup," Carmen. Isabella whispered to her friend while lounging by the pool. "Don't be stupid. These tech guys always have loopholes. Besides, the marriage only needs to last 3 years for me to secure my lifestyle brand. Can you imagine the followers I'll get as the ex-wife of a tech billionaire? I'll be set for life." Vivian's hands shook as she pruned nearby roses, every word burning into her memory. But she needed more than overheard conversations. She needed Isabella to reveal her true nature in a way Richard couldn't ignore. The opportunity came sooner than expected. One evening, while Richard worked late, Isabella stormed into the kitchen waving an iPad. "Can you explain this?" she demanded, shoving the screen in Vivian's face. It showed a bank notification for a large transfer from one of Richard's accounts, an account Vivian had secretly arranged to appear temporarily empty. "I don't understand, Miss Martinez. I'm just the maid." "Don't play dumb with me," Isabella hissed, her perfectly maintained facade cracking. "I know all you staff talk. Where did that money go?" That was supposed to be, she caught herself, but not before revealing far too much about her knowledge of Richard's finances. "You seem very concerned about Mr. Chen's private banking," Vivian said carefully, watching rage flash across Isabella's featured. "Listen here, you immigrant nobody." Isabella stepped closer, her designer heels clicking against the tile. "I've worked too hard getting close to Richard to let some nosy maid ruin things. So here's what's going to happen." What happened next would become the turning point of everything. But in that moment, as Isabella revealed her true colors, Vivian felt no triumph, only sadness for her son and determination to protect him from what was coming. The night of the Chen Family Foundation's annual Charity Gala arrived with all the sparkle and excitement Isabella had dreamed of. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over the mansion's grand ballroom, where Silicon Valley's elite mingled with celebrities and philanthropists. Everything was perfect except for one small detail. Maria. Isabella's voice cut through the pre-event chaos like a knife. "Where are my diamond earrings?" Vivian hurried into the bridal suite that had been set up for Isabella's preparations. She found the younger woman standing in front of a mirror, already dressed in a stunning red gown that probably cost more than most people's cars. "The ones Mr. Chen gave you, Miss Martinez." "No," Isabella snapped. "The vintage ones from Mrs. Chen's jewelry box. The ones I told you to polish this morning." Vivian's heart skipped a beat. Those earrings had been her mother's, brought over from Taiwan, and she certainly hadn't given Isabella permission to wear them. "I'm sorry, Miss Martinez, but I didn't polish any earrings today." Isabella's face darkened. "Are you calling me a liar? I specifically told you she cut herself off as her makeup artist entered the room." Instantly, her expression transformed into a sweet smile. "Never mind, Maria. I must have forgotten to tell you. Just find them, please. They'll be perfect for the video content tonight." As Vivian left the room, she heard Isabella's saccharine voice explaining to the makeup artist how she was practically family now, and how Mother Chen would have wanted me to wear her precious pieces. The gala began at 7, and by 8 the mansion was filled with the hue of the tech world. Richard beamed with pride as Isabella charmed everyone she met, playing the role of the perfect future wife. She even made a show of helping the catering staff arrange a full-on display of appetizers, making sure several guests captured the moment for social media. But Vivian noticed how Isabella's smile tightened each time someone mentioned the prenuptial agreement, how her eyes darted to Richard's location whenever she was telling stories about their relationship, as if checking that he wasn't close enough to hear the embellishments. The breaking point came just before the main fundraising announcement. Vivian was carrying a tray of champagne when she overheard Isabella in a heated whispered conversation with someone in a quiet corridor. Everything said Isabella was saying into her phone. "Once we're married, we'll have access to the family trust." Richard's mother was stupid enough to leave him in charge of everything. He doesn't even read the fine print of what he signs anymore. Vivian's hands trembled, nearly dropping the tray. She'd suspected Isabella's intentions, but hearing her discuss the family wealth so callously made her blood boil. The prenup, Isabella continued, unaware of her audience. "Please, I've already found 3 ways around it, and once the marriage is official, I'll have enough dirt on the company to ensure a very comfortable settlement. The old lady won't know what hit her." The sound of breaking glass cut through the air as Vivian deliberately dropped the champagne tray. Isabella spun around, phone still in hand, her face contorting with rage. "You," she hissed, ending her call. "How dare you spy on me?" "How dare I?" Vivian straightened up, dropping her affected posture. "How dare you come into my son's home and plot to steal not just his money, but his trust?" Isabella's face went pale. "Your son?" Vivian reached up and removed her colored contacts, meeting Isabella's shocked gaze with her natural, fierce brown eyes. "Yes, Miss Martinez, my son. The man whose love you've been exploiting for your little social media empire." "You can't prove anything." Isabella recovered quickly, her voice turning threatening. "It's my word against some servants. Who do you think Richard will believe? The woman he loves, or the hired help who's been lying to him?" "You mean the mother who raised him?" Richard's voice came from behind them, causing Isabella to whirl around in shock. He stepped out of the shadows, his face a mask of hurt and anger. "The woman who built everything you've been plotting to steal." Richard, Isabella's voice shifted instantly to its sugary public tone. "Baby, this isn't what it looks like. I can explain everything." "Save it." Richard held up his phone. "I heard everything. The live stream you started for your exclusive behind-the-scenes gala content. It's been running this whole time. Every word, Isabella. Every single word." The color drained from Isabella's face as she looked at her phone, still broadcasting to her premium subscribers. In her haste to scheme, she'd forgotten to end her earlier live stream. "Richard, please." She reached for him, but he stepped back. "Everything I did was for us. For our future." "No," he said quietly. "Everything you did was for your followers, your brand, your empire. But you forgot something fundamental about real wealth, Isabella." "What's that?" she whispered, tears threatening to ruin her perfect makeup. Vivian stepped forward, standing beside her son. "It comes from what you build, not what you take." The next few moments passed in a blur of security escorts and whispered gossiping among the guests. Richard made a brief announcement about a family emergency, and the gala continued with a different sort of excitement humming through the crowd. Later that night, after the last guest had left and the cleanup crew had gone home, Richard found his mother in the kitchen, making the late-night tea that had been their ritual since his childhood. "I'm sorry," Mommy said, accepting a cup. "I should have trusted your instincts." Vivian shook her head, her now silver hair catching the soft kitchen lights. "You trusted love, son. That's never wrong." But next time, perhaps trust love that doesn't need designer labels to prove itself. How did you know? He asked. Right from the start. How did you know? Vivian smiled, sipping her tea. Because real love, Richard, is like this tea. It's warm, it's constant, and it doesn't need 1 million followers to prove its worth. Outside, the sound of a car engine marked Isabella's final departure from the mansion. Her Instagram would later call it a mutual decision to part ways and the beginning of an exciting new chapter. But for the Chen family, it was simply a reminder that some things like trust, love, and a mother's intuition were worth more than all the influence in the world. The morning after the gala, Richard sat in his home office, scrolling through Isabella's social media exodus. She'd already posted a carefully crafted breakup announcement, complete with soft focus photos and inspirational quotes about choosing yourself and knowing your worth. The comments section was flooded with supportive messages from followers who didn't know the truth. She's good at what she does, he said as Vivian entered with a tray of congee, their traditional comfort food. Even now, she's turning this into content. The best con artists always are, Vivian replied, setting down the tray. She had removed her Maria disguise but kept the simple clothes, finding comfort in their functionality after 2 weeks of play acting. Have you seen the news? Richard nodded grimly. Several tech blogs had already picked up rumors about the broken engagement, though thankfully, none had the full story. Yet, his phone buzzed with another message from Isabella. Please, Richard, we can work this out. Everything I said was taken out of context. Your mother manipulated the situation. Just give me 5 minutes to explain. He placed the phone face down on his desk, turning instead to the congee. The familiar smell brought back memories of childhood sick days, of his mother caring for him while running her restaurant empire from their tiny apartment kitchen. I keep thinking about all the signs I missed, he said, stirring the rice porridge, the way she always filmed our private moments, how she turned every date into a brand opportunity. She even monetized our engagement announcement. Love blinds us to many things, Vivian said gently, but it also opens our eyes when we're ready to see. A commotion at the front door interrupted their conversation. Isabella had arrived unannounced, live streaming to her followers. I just need to clear the air, her voice carried through the hallway. My followers deserve the truth. Security moved to intercept her, but Richard held up a hand. Let her in, he called out. Let's finish this properly. Isabella burst into the office, phone held high, her carefully curated appearance slightly frayed at the edges. Richard, baby, you have to listen to me. Your mother set me up. She turned on your live stream during the gala, Richard finished calmly. Made you discuss plans to exploit my family's wealth. Forced you to brag about circumventing the prenup. Isabella lowered her phone slightly, her influencer smile faltering. I was just playing a role. Building our brand. Don't you see? Together, we could be bigger than Bezos and Lauren, than Bill and Melinda. We could. Build an empire on lies, Vivian interrupted, her voice firm but not unkind. Create wealth from other people's trust. You don't understand modern relationships, Isabella shot back, but her voice wavered. Everything is content now. Everything is about building a narrative. No, Richard stood, finally finding the words he needed. Everything is not content, Isabella. My mother taught me that real wealth comes from building things that last: relationships, trust, family, not followers and likes. But I do love you, Isabella insisted, tears threatening to ruin her camera-ready makeup. You love what I represent, Richard corrected. The lifestyle, the influence, the power. But you never loved just me. The real me who wears the same coding hoodie for a week straight. Who forgets to post on social media for months. Who would rather eat his mother's congee than dine at Michelin-starred restaurants? Isabella's phone dropped to her side, live stream forgotten. For perhaps the first time, she looked at Richard, really looked at him without considering the camera angle or lighting. I thought she began, then stopped. I really thought we could have it all. We did have it all, Richard said softly. We had a chance at something real. But you chose followers over family, influence over intimacy. Vivian stepped forward, her presence commanding despite her simple attire. The door is that way, Miss Martinez. I suggest you use it before we discuss the legal implications of attempting to defraud a tech company CEO. Isabella's eyes widened at the steel in Vivian's voice. Without another word, she turned and fled, her designer heels clicking a retreat down the hallway. Later, as the sun set over Silicon Valley, mother and son sat in the garden where Richard had first introduced Isabella to his mother nearly a year ago. You know what's ironic, Richard mused, watching the koi fish swim in patterns his mother had always claimed spelled out good fortune. She had everything she wanted: the lifestyle, the platform, the influence. She just couldn't see it. Some people are so busy performing their lives, they forget to live them, Vivian replied, reaching over to straighten her son's perpetually rumpled collar. Your father used to say that true character is who you are when no one is filming. Richard smiled, catching his mother's hand. Thank you, Mum, not just for the undercover operation, but for teaching me the difference between price and value. That's what mothers do, Vivian said simply. We protect what matters most, even when it means serving dinner in a maid's uniform. 1 year later, the Chen mansion buzzed with a different kind of energy. Instead of influencers and cameras, the garden was filled with local community leaders and non-profit directors gathering for the launch of the Chen Family Technology Access Initiative. Richard stood at a modest podium, wearing his favorite coding hoodie beneath a blazer, announcing grants for underprivileged students interested in tech. But Vivian watched from the sidelines, her heart swelling with pride. After the Isabella incident, Richard had thrown himself into meaningful work, focusing on creating genuine impact rather than social media impressions. She'd occasionally seen Isabella's updates. The influencer had spun their breakup into a successful authentic living rebrand, complete with a book deal and speaking tours. But that world seemed very far away now. Your father would be proud, Vivian said later, as they shared their evening tea in the kitchen. It was no longer just their ritual, they'd opened it to the entire household staff, creating a daily moment of genuine connection that no amount of money could buy. I saw something interesting today, Richard said, pulling out his phone. He showed his mother an article about Isabella's latest venture, a dating app for influencers and entrepreneurs. She's actually built something real. Maybe she learned something too. Vivian smiled, noting how her son could now discuss Isabella without bitterness. Everyone grows in their own way. Some need to lose everything to find what truly matters. Speaking of which, Richard grinned. Teresa's daughter got accepted to MIT. Full scholarship, but I think she could use some mentoring from a certain tech CEO. And this has nothing to do with the fact that Teresa has been trying to set you up with her niece, the robotics engineer Vivian teased. Richard blushed. Mum, I told you Jenny and I are just friends. Besides, she doesn't even have Instagram. No, Vivian agreed, hiding her smile behind her teacup. She just has 3 patents and a Ph.D. As laughter filled the kitchen, Vivian reflected on their journey. The mansion was still grand, the fortune still vast, but something fundamental had shifted. Success was no longer measured in followers or likes, but in the genuine connections they built, the lives they touched, and the trust they earned. In the end, her little undercover operation had revealed something far more valuable than Isabella's true nature. It had shown them all the true meaning of wealth. Like and subscribe for more heartwarming stories about family, love, and the things that money can't buy. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What would you do to protect someone you love from a gold digger? Don't forget to hit that notification bell to never miss an update.